Hi, everyone. My name is Wenhao Diao, and I am the director for the project that is looking at the study abroad experience in China. I'm very honored and pleased to share how the project has been and where we are in terms of the project. So this project, the goal of this project, there were two goals. First of all, the goal was to document the study abroad experience of American students in China, particularly in terms of their experience of learning and actually using Mandarin with their Chinese peers. So I was really interested in understanding the kind of interaction between American and Chinese youth, and indeed, if the future belongs to youth, then to what extent they can communicate effectively with each other was the concern of the study. And I would also like to focus particularly, although not exclusively, on the minoritized students. We have seen a lot of research focusing on study abroad, and oftentimes the participants are overrepresented by white, often female participants. So we are also seeing minoritized groups are underrepresented in the study abroad population in general. And therefore, I wanted to use this study as this project as an opportunity to really understand what the experience would be for students who are from less privileged or less represented backgrounds. And particularly the focus is really looking at how these students not only using the language, but also how they negotiate identity through language and also the kind of cultural differences. And in addition to these these objectives, the second major goal of this project was also to be able to bring the study abroad experience home to the students who are, for various reasons, unable to take advantage of such kind of study abroad opportunities. And so one of the things that we are working on is to archive the study abroad students' language experience to really show what things study abroad students actually talk about, what kind of language they actually use, and what kind of problems or potential conflicts they actually encounter in these peer interactions. And also perhaps develop to be able to develop teaching and learning materials that are based on such use of students' actual experience in language use in their day-to-day life. And moreover, through partnership with the Pima Community College, we were also hoping to use this opportunity to really help understand and really empower these minoritized students for them to be able to understand how foreign language learning can help empower themselves. And so in terms of where the project is right now, the project has so far more or less completed the first step, which is documenting the study abroad experience of American students in China. Once again, the idea is to look at their experience of learning and using the language with their Chinese peers, and looking at minoritized students' experience and also their negotiation of identity and cultural differences. So what we have done is that the project has involved a total of 21 American students and 21 Chinese hosts, including 19 Chinese roommates and 2 host families. And these American students came from 2 different programs in China. One was a summer program, the other 2 study abroad centers, 3 programs. One summer program in Shanghai and 2 fall programs, semester programs, one in Shanghai and one in Beijing. And all of these students were enrolled either in these programs in the year of 2016. So all these data collection has already been completed, and we have collected a lot of data. And in terms of their background, indeed, they came from a lot of different kinds of ethnic backgrounds. We have less than 50%, 47% of the participants were white, and 24% of the participants were self-described as Asian, and about 20%, 19% to be exact, were from mixed background, and one participant was Black, African American, and the other participant self-described as brown. And so this really allows us to understand the kind of racialized, minoritized experience, and also how these racialized minority students may experience study abroad differently. And I was very happy to have been able to collect data from such a diverse group of students. And in terms of data, I visited these three programs. I interviewed each of these students twice, and all these interviews added up to 21 hours. I also interviewed with each of the Chinese hosts, and each of these interviews lasted for about an hour. And all these students were given a recorder, and they almost all of them submitted about 4 to 6 recordings, which give us about approximately 40 hours of recordings in total. These are recordings about their day-to-day interaction between themselves and their Chinese hosts, such as Chinese roommates, or for those students who were living with host families, that it was their dinner table kind of conversations. And I also administered the background surveys to all these students, and I also administered the linguistic questionnaires. There were 2 versions, the pre and post. And I also conducted site visits, and I visited their classrooms, their dorms. I also did participant observation by going on their field trips and going to their classrooms just to see what things were happening. And I also looked at their social media. And in the Chinese case, it was interesting because all the students were required to have a WeChat account, and partially because a lot of their email, for example, Gmail was blocked in China and Facebook was blocked in China, so these were not very accessible or convenient. And as a result, for the programs, all 3 programs, to be able to communicate with each of the students and for the students to communicate with each other, they were all required to download this app called WeChat. So I also looked at their WeChat postings, although admittedly some of them might have set up the privacy so that I was not able to access. But most of them shared the WeChat postings with me as well. And so some of the preliminary findings, as I have said, we have already completed data collection stage. We're in the process of analysis and really trying to present some of our findings. One of the things we have looked at is the negotiation of racialized identity. The study has already been presented at the recent Study Abroad Cultural Conference in Houston at Rice University in February, and the manuscript is currently in preparation. We also looked at learners with prior experience of Chinese varieties. For example, we have students who are among the Asian group. A lot of them were actually Chinese heritage speakers. And even among the students who were not from heritage backgrounds, they may have had prior experience with different Chinese varieties because of for example, their relationship with Chinese immigrants in the United States. As a result, they learn to speak Mandarin with different accents, and this is certainly an issue that we have not looked at enough in the applied linguistic literature. And so I'm also looking at the issues related to these students' negotiation of accent and identity. And one of the papers has already been presented at the AAAL, the American Association for Applied Linguistics Conference, just this month. And the manuscript is also currently in preparation. And my research team, my research assistants, and I are also looking at how these students are negotiating cultural differences and how they resolve the kind of conflicts in their conversations. Once again, we are looking at their audio recordings between the students themselves and also their college roommates, their Chinese roommates. So we found that there were a lot of instances in which these students did not agree. Sometimes such disagreements were due to personal differences. However, they often try to resolve such conflicts by presenting or framing such personal differences as cultural differences. So this was a very interesting strategy in terms of thinking of negotiation of cultural differences. Sometimes such cultural differences were really constructed in their day-to-day interaction. And so we have done some analysis about these kind of negotiations, and we have one proposal that is currently under review for a conference, a major conference in the field. And so our hope is to be able to share our findings very, very soon as well with language educators. And so obviously this project is still ongoing, especially we haven't really begun to do things for our second goal, which is really to bring the study abroad experience home to the students, especially students such as those who are not able to take advantage of the study abroad experience. And so one of the things that we would like to do from this project is to think about how we can use our data such as the recordings, the interviews, how can we bring the identity dimension into the teaching and learning of Mandarin Chinese? What that means, for example, when we tell students to speak the language, to speak Mandarin, what does that mean? So perhaps this is an opportunity to, rather than simply tell our students, well, everyone in China speaks Mandarin, which is not true. We can instead give students an opportunity to analyze these what we have from the project, and really to think of language as an act of identity. What linguistic variety I'm using is actually presenting my identity. And so also perhaps to help students think of their identity as a resource to construct social networks with speakers of Mandarin Chinese, for example, especially for minoritized students. For example, the African American student's experience was very different from the rest of his cohort, and he was able to use his minoritized identity in the United States to construct some kind of rapport with the people that he encountered in China, and he was able to make a lot of friends through that way. So really to use language and identity as resources to construct social network and help language and identity contribute to each other. And I think secondly, the goal, well, not the goal, but the objective is really to be able to bridge the kind of actual needs of our students when they use language, when they use Mandarin in China with our language pedagogies. For example, a lot of the interview data showed that students felt that they had no idea or very little idea about how to initiate, sustain, or conclude conversations on social media. For example, they may have made friends with people they've encountered in China, but they don't know how they can follow up on social media to just say hi. So these are things that textbook designers, for example, often do not think about, and we have not sufficiently addressed this need for our students. And the other theme that we have found, especially in the qualitative interview data, was that students often say, well, a lot of topics that I encountered were things that I never was taught in the language classroom. For example, they were often asked to talk about popular American TV shows because many of these TV shows have become extremely popular in China, especially through the internet. But they had no idea. Oftentimes, these students didn't really watch these shows themselves. They had no idea that the American TV shows would be so popular among their Chinese peers. So these perhaps are things that we could potentially incorporate into our teaching and learning materials in the future, in addition to the actual strategies that students use to negotiate cultural differences, and etc. And so once again, this project is still ongoing, and it was made possible by the Title VI grant from the U.S. Department of Education, the Language Resource Center grant, as well as a grant from the College of Humanities and a grant from CERCLL at the University of Arizona. We are extremely grateful for this opportunity, and I would also like to use this opportunity to thank my research assistants, Yiwang Xinghe and Yilan Liu. Please, if you have any questions, suggestions, comments, please contact me, and this is my email address. Thank you very much.